Yes, folks, hello, welcome once again to MoDXtra Games and Collectibles. It's time for another action figure review here on the channel, and as you can see, this installment today is going to be all about the Jada Toys Street Fighter 2 Ultra Cammy figure. So stick around, I'm going to give you all the ins and outs, ups and downs that you need to know about this fig, so that if you've been thinking about picking one up for yourself, you'll have a nice thorough wealth of information to make a decision as to whether this is worth your hard-earned cash. I'll give you a quick peek at the box and the peg presents, the packaging presents of the product, and then we'll get into the figure itself, talk about aesthetic, talk about the articulation and posability, talk about the accessories and the added value that they bring. And with all that said and done, you should have just a thorough understanding of Cammy and make decisions, to pick one up if you pass one in the shop, or cancel your pre-order, or keep your pre-order if you've got one, all that good stuff. So let's get into it, and let's go back in time now to visit with past Chris, who's going to share the box with you on the day that Cammy arrived. Okay, here we go. Here we go then, folks. Here's Cammy in packaging then. We'll just have a quick look at the peg presents for the mint in box collectors. It's the standard Jada Toys Street Fighter 2 line motif with the arcade machine thing going on. Got the stick and buttons across the top there, the heads up display with the life bars, Cammy's name, a little bit of computer style, the console aesthetic of the character there. And then, of course, the big window at the front showing off the character and all the goodies. I've said it before, I'll say it again, just in case this is the first time you're seeing a Street Fighter 2 Jada Toys review from me. I like these boxes. I think, even though I'm not a box keeper, I unpackage everything and play with it all. I like the peg presents. I'm seeing these crop up in the high street kind of toy store locations here in the United Kingdom. And so I think they've got a great aesthetic, a good look to catch the attention of a Street Fighter fan, just strolling the aisles of their local Smiths or Entertainer or something. So I'm really into that for sure. Then on the back, got the figure posed up, got the selection screen from the game there with the characters in a row, so you can take a look at which ones they've released and which ones they haven't. Even though we've had a preview of a lot of these, they should be coming soon, the next wave, surely. Artwork on one of the sides here, we've got Cammy's little bio things from the United Kingdom. Country of origin, England, fighting style, Shadaloo fighting technique. I've probably absolutely murdered the pronunciation of that, and open to be corrected in the comments down below. Every day's a learning day. And then the same kind of manga style artwork on the other side that we've seen on all the boxes. And that's it. There's the packaging. So I'm going to go away, crack Cammy open, get some good quality man-child playtime in with the figure, pose her up, see how she looks in display with the other Street Fighter 2 figures I've got, etc., etc. Gather up some review thoughts. So future Chris is going to be with you in just a few moments to share those review thoughts. Stick around. He's here in 3, 2, 1... Okay, folks, well, let's talk about the visual experience with the figure, and here's a head-to-toe look at Cammy here on screen right now. This is how she came out of the box. So we've got the kind of the out-of-the-packet head sculpt on her there, and she was in the 2 closed fist hands as well. Now, I've said this about all the Jada Toys Street Fighter 2 figures. There's this kind of animated style aesthetic that they've chosen to go for, which is absolutely fine. Ties in well with the sort of Street Fighter 2 video game theme, and you can see that's continued here with Cammy too. Although there's plenty of sculpted detail in there, plenty of depth to kind of bring it to life in the 3-dimensional 6-inch form as well. But overall, your kind of shelf presence impression is of that kind of more animated style figure that you can see here. Bringing the figure a bit nearer to the camera so we can conduct a closer inspection of some of the finer details, and we can start with the head sculpt there. We can see out the packet, she's in this sort of pursed lips facial expression. I've interpreted that to be a little blow of a kiss there. I think it's to replicate the suggestive, arms over the head expression that she has in the in-game thumbnail, I believe. I don't know, that's just me guessing, but I think that's what they're going for there. But you can see that the facial expression is put together well. She's got a cheek scar in there. The paint applications in the eyes, the lips, the eyebrow, the scar are really well put together. Lots of dynamic stuff going on with the hair as well, with the little flicks coming down. Again, just really bringing to life that sort of animated computer game style aesthetic of the figure. The red in the beret is very vivid, but you've got nice paint applications there with the elasticated rim that goes around the headline there, and the little paint application of the symbol, the little triangular symbol, which is all nice to see. And it's got, these contoured shapes to make it look very beret-like. And then around the back with her braided pigtails, you can see these are really well sculpted, got nice hair details in them. The braids are nicely done too. They've got a little ties at the end here with a little red tie wraps, but these are also well painted too, well applied. These are just interestingly enough on a little joint at the top here as well, so that aesthetically you can manipulate them. You can knock them off, obviously. So I'll it's an extra articulation point, jumping ahead kind of in my video structure, but a little articulation point. But it has an aesthetic impact, because then it means you can have them draped down the back, or if she's doing a kick, you can sort of angle them to be flying out towards the back and stuff, which is a nice touch. Moving further down into the body, you can see that there's a bit of a wash in here, so you've got these kind of contour effects and fabric effects. Mine's got this weird line. Can you see it there? Just going over her left boob there. I don't know if that's a bit of wash spill that's happened within the figure or not, but you only really notice it under very bright lights. And obviously when I'm examining the figure in close detail in preparation for a review, it's negligible. It's hardly noticeable when she's in amongst the other figures. Got the little sculpted symbol here on the right boob. But yeah, it's got you can see the musculature under here, the bosom and everything, which is all nice, which gives it that texture and that depth. It's a little bit of a shame that the kind of leotard line here, as it comes down over the groin, is painted on and not sculpted on. That's a little bit of a shame. In fact, what I would argue is, as you go down into the legs, you've got the camo paint applications on the legs, which are fine, but it gives the bottom half a bit more of a kind of plasticky feel. There's been better sort of skin tones and less of a sort of plasticky feel in other figures in the line. I don't sense it as much with the top half. I feel like the face and the arms and everything look fine, even though the top of the leotard's painted on up here as well. But it kind of gives it stands out more, the painted line in there, and then the plasticky feel on the legs. However, in terms of the character's visual identity, the camouflage is present and correct. The green leotard, the military colour green leotard, is present and correct, and it's all good. It's all fine. Lots of extra sculpted detail there in the gloves and stuff as well. Got a little red sock line coming out across the top of the boots, and then sculpted details in the boots as well. And the leathery effect on these is all right. It doesn't stand up as well against like Guile. His boots were very well sculpted and had a splash of added colour. Like, you got these little tassels here they could have done something with. And so again, it kind of looks just a little bit plastic here compared to other figures in the line. Turning around, taking a look at the back, you can see that they've leaned very heavily into the victory pose stuff, where Cammy turns around and gives you a good look at the cake, gives you a peek at the goods, as it were. So obviously very true to the source material and very true to the character's behaviour in game. But it does, as a middle-aged man with teenage kids, it does just sometimes make me blush a bit. I don't know what else to tell you. It's a well sculpted arse. There's plenty of cake on show there, if that's your thing. You know what I mean? What's his name? Articulating Ninja and who's the other guy with all the figures with the boobs out? Yo-Yo Jerk. They'll love it. Now, aesthetically speaking, in terms of the visual experience, Cammy's all right. But I've not been as blown away as I have been by other Jada Toys figures in the line. I'm still going to give her a thumbs up, because I think it's a solid, accurate representation of the character from the Street Fighter 2 video game. That's obviously what they're going for. It's consistent with the style and tone of the rest of the line. On the shelf with the rest of them, she doesn't stand out as being particularly worse than them all. But when you inspect a little bit more closely, she's not quite as up to standard, I don't feel, as other figures in the line. The skin tones look a bit plasticky. The paint job on it's not quite as inspiring. I don't know. There's something there that's missing compared to the other figures in the line. I'll put her next to a few more, like Chun-Li and Ryu and Guile and stuff, so you can see what I'm talking about towards the back end of the video. So stick around for that. So it's okay. She's a good addition to the line, but I just don't feel like I'm as visually impressed at the attention to detail and the kind of the depth in this one. So, okay, there you go. That's the aesthetic, the visual experience. Let's now take a closer look at the articulation and posability, shall we? Quick reminder, ladies and gents, as always, I've put chapters in for the video with timestamps for the various different sections. So if you're familiar with the Jada Toys articulation scheme on the female figures already and less interested in this section, then please do feel free to avail yourself of the chapters and jump forward to take a look at the review of the accessories and added value. But if this is the first Jada Toys Street Fighter 2 video you've ever watched, or you're interested to know if there's any quirks or differences compared to other figures in the line, then stick around and I'll walk you through it. So starting up top with the head, it's just a ball in the base of the skull. Gives you the full 360 all the way around. You know, the pigtails notwithstanding. You've got decent down, fairly decent up. The up is obviously constrained by these hung down the back of the head there. Bit of tilt and swivel. It's okay. There's no ball at the bottom of the neck, so it's not as exciting as the male counterparts in the line, which is a sentence you're going to hear me say a few times as I run through the articulation. Moving down into the shoulders here, you can see it's a peg and a hinge in the shoulders, giving you a full 360 all the way around, and then you can peg out to a T-shape there like that. No butterfly joint though, which I feel is a sad omission. It's quite often the case with female figures. I mean, Marvel Legends, for example, in the 6-inch space have only just started exploring butterfly joints on female figures. But when you got a kind of athletic, martial arts, gymnast style character like this, it's a shame because it does limit some of the posability that you're seeking to achieve. Got swivel there at the top of the bicep and tricep. Pinless double elbow that will get you up to there. Then pegged in at the wrist on the hands, which means you can swivel them all the way around, and then they've got hinges to go forward and back there, like so. And that's on all the hands. You'll see on the hand swaps later on, they're all forward and back hinges as well. Getting into the torso, you can see it's the diaphragm joint there across the top, under the bosom, and then you've got the ball joint here in the waist. Lots of good motion here, good crunch forward, good crunch back, swivel, tilt, just tons of range of motion using those two joints there in the main torso. Balls at the hips, giving you a decent forward. Very good Russian ballet splits, as you'd expect. But the prominence of the cake means the back's not very good and creates this weird kind of, you see that weird sort of shape there. Swivel here at the top of the thigh. Pinless double knee that'll get you up to there. And look at this, when in the lighting that I use for the articulation segment, you can really see the shininess on that plastic coming through. Swivel at the top of the boot cut. And then the classic hinge and rocker in the ankles. Okay, well, it's still a thumbs up on the articulation, folks, because as you can see, you can get some very dynamic, interesting posing going on. And again, massive props to Jada Toys. Big shout out for really thinking about the kind of center of gravity and that through line on their figures so that you can do single foot balanced stands. And again, like with Guile, like with Ryu, like with the other figures in the line I've reviewed, I didn't even have to work hard. I've just thrown that together and chucked it in front of a camera. It's not even a particularly finessed kind of pose. I've just chucked it together to demonstrate. So while I'm a little bit more critical of Cammy as a female figure, missing a couple of points of articulation, not quite as expansive as the male characters in the line, like that extra ball joint at the base of the neck, like the butterfly joint in the shoulders, etc., etc., still pretty freaking impressive. You know what I mean? Still pretty freaking impressive, and I've managed to get her into some really awesome poses and get her into this some kind of martial artsy combat poses that I'm really pleased with. So I can't take points away. I've got to give it a thumbs up. So good job, Cammy. Well done. All right, there's the articulation. Let's now take a quick look at the accessories and added value, shall we? And first on the list, we have the alternative head sculpt, which is the sort of shouty, in the midst of combat look. And there, so she's got her mouth open there, giving it a nice scream while she's punching and kicking and what have you, which is good. The facial expression, the facial features are good. The scars there, the paint applications on the tongue, the teeth, the eyes, the eyebrows, solid. A little bit more sort of dynamic motion in the face flick, and then the braided pigtails are articulated like on the other head sculpt as well, so you can do more with them. But as you can see, they're a little bit more angled, a little bit more curved, to indicate that dynamic action kind of situation. But yeah, the head sculpt's good. This is the one I found myself using much more frequently in my displays and in the photos I was taking, just because of the type of stuff. You know, I've been taking pictures of her kicking Ryu in the face and getting into it with M. Bison and stuff, so that all adds up. But yeah, good, solid second head sculpt. And as always, big fan of having extra options, you know, that expand the possibility of what I can do with my figure through head sculpts. Then we have a couple of hand swaps for the figure here, these open palm ones, one for each hand. You can see here on the right, the thumb's up. On the left, the thumb is sort of tucked in. These are fine, you know, they're quite versatile. You can use them for combat style poses, you know, with like karate chopping or holding a hand out in balance while doing a kick and stuff. Or you can sort of go for your victory poses that she does with her hands on a hip and things. So these are good, decent. Again, expand the range of possibilities, the range of options you've got in terms of how you choose to pose and display your figure. And as I mentioned earlier, they've got forward and back hinges on them as well. And then we have this energy effect here that you can see goes on the end of a foot there. It does add a little bit of extra weight to the end of the leg, so it does require a little bit more finessing to get that kind of single foot kick pose balanced correctly, but overall it's still fairly straightforward. Nice looking piece, got the kind of white energy bit at one end and then the more kind of yellowy energy covers like streaming down off the, what's it called, cannon strike that she's doing there, which is all lovely jubbly. Nice little addition. All the Jada Toys characters come with some sort of energy effect to reflect one of their special moves from the game. You can see down there, you've got this like little kind of carved away channel that matches the shape of a foot. So you have to angle it out in a point and then kind of stick it on the end like that. But yeah, nice little piece. Adds a little bit of dynamic special move energy to the whole thing. And that's it, folks. That's your accessory selection for Cammy. The hand swaps, the head swap, and the energy effect. So they're good, solid accessories, you know, that they add to your world building, they add to your range of possibilities when it comes to posing and displaying your figure. It's just not quite as expansive a selection of accessories as we've seen with other figures in the line. You know, when you compare it to Chun-Li or Dalsim, or you're like M. Bison's got a cloth cape and some bits going on, it doesn't feel quite as much as we've seen with the others. However, that said, you know, they've got to distribute their budgets accordingly across the line somewhere. What else were you going to give Cammy, I suppose? Maybe a handgun? I don't know. But they certainly help. The hand swaps and the head swaps are fine. You know, it's good. So it's a thumbs up-ish on that. So there you go. There's the accessory selection and the added value. Let's take a look at Cammy. Let's do a couple of other figs now. Okay, folks, to get us started then, here is Cammy next to Ken. I think this sort of demonstrates what I mean about the sort of texture details and skin tones and stuff. She just looks a little bit more plasticky to me next to Ken's, you know, lovely West Coast tan. Is he from the West Coast? I don't know. I feel like he's a Californian. He's got a Californian vibe about him, hasn't he? Even with his haircut borrowed from He-Man. Here's Cammy next to Guile, keeping the, you know, kind of military camouflage colours alive. Part of the same crew there. Here she is next to Chun-Li, which again, I feel further illustrates how the skin tones and the more kind of plasticky vibe of Cammy stands out compared to others in the line. And finally, here she is next to M. Bison, just dominating the whole screen with his big bulk and his cape and everything there. But that does sort of illustrate, I suppose, something about the value. You know, there's obviously a lot more figure going on with M. Bison. I don't know, maybe I'm being too harsh, but in any case, you can see the two of them next to each other there. And here's Cammy now going round on the turntable so you can get a 360 look at the figure, get one last final peek at that cake, folks. I know what you've been thinking. But while she's going round and you get that 360 look, I'll offer up some final thoughts. And I've just got to say, you know, she's not a bad figure. She's not a bad figure. Even though the tone of this may have felt a little bit more critical or a little bit more down compared to the other Jada Street Fighter 2 figures, she's just not blown me away as much as the others in the line. You know, I've been reaching, since the two of them arrived, I've been reaching for all the others, taking lots of photos with them in amongst each other, and she's just not quite, I don't know, I'm just not feeling quite as energized by the character and as energized by the figure when it comes to posing, photographing, setting up little dios and getting the camera out, you know, compared to, well, any of the other figures, to be honest. I mean, a natural comparison point would be to put her next to Chun-Li as another female character in the line, another female figure, and Chun-Li just, I don't know, just seems to be more interesting, just seems to be more dynamic, just seems to be more textured and layered, a little less toy-y, you know, got a bit more depth to her. compared to Cammy. But I mean, it's true of all the male figures as well. When you think about the gi and the texture design in the gi on Ryu and Ken, or M. Bison's uniform, Dalsim's skin tones and musculature. I don't know. I'm just not as sold on this figure as much as I have been, but I'm comparing it to other Jada Street Fighter 2 figures. In the grand scheme of 6-inch action figure lines, this is a good fig. You know, if you put it next to some female Marvel Legends, she's blowing them out of the water, just blowing them away, you know. So, yeah, it may seem like I'm a bit more down on Cammy, and I am a little bit more down on Cammy, but it's still a figure I'd recommend if you love Street Fighter. I suppose if you're not as big a Street Fighter 2 fan and you're just looking for one to dip your toe in to get the action figure experience out of it, I might point you more towards the likes of Ryu and Ken, or point you more towards Guile, you know, than I would Cammy. But if you are a Street Fighter 2 fan, or you're looking for just good, solid female action figures to expand out of the sausage fest of your display, then you can't go wrong really with it. You know, especially at this price point. You know, I always come back to that with Jada, especially at this price point. So there you go. There's my final thoughts. Okay, folks, well, I hope you enjoyed this review. I hope you found it useful. If you've been thinking about picking up a Cammy of your own, then it's my hope I've helped you make that decision. If you found it useful, do the YouTubey stuff. Thumbs up, subscribe, all that malarkey. Otherwise, thanks for hanging out. Hope you come back round for another video again sometime soon. And yeah, have a great day. Have a great week. I'll see you next time. I'm just vamping now so that I can end on the arse shot. You got to give your audience what they want. There it is. Okay, bye-bye now.